It is on, you have to be a self motivator. Okay. Welcome to this session, and in this session we will look into the problem based on the Kirchhoff's current law and the voltage law. And so yesterday we were talking about this particular problem. So what I said is, the given circuit, it did not had any kind of current marking or a node marking. First thing you are going to do is, like, you will mark the nodes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, or however you want. Then you mark the direction. So I have taken this as I1. So I1 flows through this. This is the current I1. When it comes to the node B, it will get divided into two parts. It will flow into two parts. So this current, I will take it as I2, and I apply the KCL here, and the remaining current I1 minus I2 will flow into this branch. So you can see I1 minus I2 will flow in this branch. I2 will flow in this branch. So once I2 current comes to the node C, again there are two parts. Again it will get divided into two parts. So this path I have taken as I3. So you can say this path I3 current, and I2 minus I3, that remaining current will flow here. So I2 minus I3 will flow here. So this is I2 minus I3, and this is I3. Again, if you apply the Ohm's law, this plus this is what it will flow here. I2 minus I3 plus I3 will get cancelled. I2 will flow here. Okay, I2 current will come here, and this is I1 minus I2. So both together it will add up I1 minus I2 plus I2. So I2 will get cancelled. I1 current will flow back to the voltage source. I hope everybody is clear with this convention. This is the direction of tracing clockwise. Then we are going to apply the KVL. Apply the KVL to this node, that is A, B, G, H, A. So if I apply KVL to this particular loop, okay, what the equation I get here is, you start from the node A. This is the direction of the current, and also this is the direction of the tracing. So this voltage drop is positive, plus 3I1, plus 3I1. Then we come to the node B, and this is the direction of the current, and also this is the direction of the tracing. So positive voltage drop. And what is the current that is flowing here? I1 minus I2. Therefore 5 into I1 minus I2 plus 5 into I1 minus I2. Then I come to this node G, head, and I come across the negative plate of the EMF source. Minus 14 is equal to 0. That is how we get that. Then this is we have 5I1 plus 3I1, 8I1 minus 5I2, and 14 is taken on the right hand side. This forms our first equation. Next, we are going to apply KVL to this loop B, C, F, G, B. Okay, so we will start from B. So what is the current that is flowing in this branch? I2, and direction of tracing is also in the same direction. So positive voltage drop, that is plus 8I2. If you see here, plus 8I2. Then we will continue this branch. The direction of the current is this way, and the direction of the tracing is also in the same direction. The current that is flowing in this particular branch is I2 minus I3. Voltage drop is plus positive 4 into I2 minus I3. That is plus 4 into I2 minus I3. Then we come to this side. There is no resistor here. So again we have one more resistor here. Now first you observe the direction of the current is like this, and the direction of tracing is like this. Both are opposite. So this drop is going to be negative. And what is the current that is flowing in this branch? I1 minus I2. So what would be the voltage drop? Minus 5 into I1 minus I2. That is minus 5 into I1 minus I2 equals to 0. We come back to the original node, so no EMF sources, so it comes as 0. Then just simplify. This is 8I2, 4I2 minus 4I3 minus 5I1 minus into minus plus 5I2 is equal to 0. Then this is minus 5I. This is minus 5I1 and I2 we have, this is 8I2 plus 4I2, 12I2 plus 5, that is plus 17I2 minus 4I3 is equal to 0. That is our second equation, first equation and second equation. We will apply again the KVL to the third loop, that is C, D, E, F, C. And when we apply the KVL here, we start from this node. We don't have any resistor. We come back. We come across the positive plate. We consider this voltage as plus. So plus 5. So you can see plus 5. Apply KVL to the C, D, E, F, C. Plus 5. Then we come to this part. There is no resistor here. This resistor, no resistor, and then we come to this path. Now the direction of tracing is like this, and the direction of current is like this, which is opposite. And what is the current that is flowing here? I2 minus I3. So this voltage drop is going to be negative because direction of the current and direction of the tracing is opposite. So what is the voltage drop? Minus 4 into I2 minus I3. That is minus 4 into I2 minus I3 is equal to 0. And you simplify here, what we get? Minus 4I2 minus into minus plus 4I3. We take this on the right hand side, minus 5. That is the third equation. All the latecomers, I want you to be coming on time, not more than 2 minutes delay. So already like 5-6 people joined after the class started. It's an interruption. It is the last warning. Everybody should be on time. Otherwise, I will not admit you into the class. All right. So we have 3 equations. There are many methods to solve it. Whichever, if you want to do the substitution method, you can do that. There is another method called as a Kramer's method. Kramer's rule. Using Kramer's rule, we can do it. Just to refresh, you must be already knowing about the Kramer's rule. Kramer's rule can be applied for if you have an equation like this: a1x plus b1y plus c1z is equal to d1 and a2x plus b2y plus c2z is equal to d2, a3x plus b3y plus c3z is equal to d3. Here unknowns are x, y, z. 3 linear equations we have, and these are the coefficients. Okay. So our equations are exactly in the same fashion. So I have rewritten the equation. For example, we don't have I3 here. We will make it as 0 I3. So 8I1 minus 5I2 plus 0 I3 is equal to 4. Then second equation, this one, minus 5I1 plus 17I2 minus 4I3 is equal to 0. And this third one, there is no I1 here, 0 I1 minus 4I2 plus 4I3 is equal to minus 5. So what are our unknowns here? I1 is unknown, I2 is unknown, I3 is unknown. And here XYZ is unknown. First, we will find the, using Kramer's rule, we will find the determinant. You must be already aware of this. So using all these coefficients, we create the matrix and we find the determinant value for that. How to find it? A1 into B2C3 minus B3C2 minus B1 into A2C3 minus A3C2 plus C1 into A2B3 minus A3B2. So that is the D value. Then how to find the x would be dx by d. And what is the dx? Dx, what you will do, this for the this is the coefficients for the x. You are going to replace it with d1 d2 d3. Dx is what? Dx is equal to d1 d2 d3, b1 b2 b3, c1 c2 c3. Similarly, dy is a1 a2 a3. This you are going to replace with this d1 d2 d3, c1 c2 c3. And dz is a1 a2 a3, b1 b2 b3, and this z you are going to replace with this d1 d2 d3. So this is how you can find the xyz. That is a mathematics you must be already knowing. If you are not sure about that, just refer to the any mathematics books, and you can refresh that knowledge. Now I will find the d value here using all the coefficient. 8 minus 50, 8 minus 50, minus 5, 17, minus 4, 0, minus 4, plus 4, 0, minus 4, plus 4. So whatever the equation I told you, I have used that equation. Okay, by using this equation, I get a value of 316. Then how to find I1? I1 is the first variable. I1 is equal to di1 by d. And what is di1? This I'm going to replace with all the values on the right hand side. That is d1, d2, d3. You can see here 14, 0, minus 5, and the rest of the values are same. And if we calculate that value, we get it at 628. So therefore, I1 is equal to what? di1, that is 628 divided by 316, which we get it as 1.987 amperes. I should write here ampere. Unit should be written. And I will just show the yesterday's. Okay, you can see yesterday we did on this notepad, right? So we got it as I1 as 1.986. Okay, maybe some rounding error, that is fine. Then similarly, excuse me, similarly I2, I2 is equal to di2 by d. di2, you are going to replace the second column with the right hand side value d1, d2, d3. And if you solve this, you get di2 as 120. Therefore, di2 by d is 120 divided by 316, that is 0.3797 amperes. So if you see, this is matches with this one. So this like these values I got from the PPT, where they used I1, I2, I3, I4, I5. If you you already saw the amount of calculation is huge there. Like we have 5 variables, you have to solve the 5 variables. So just we have converted that into 3 variables. Now, here I3 you can find as di3 by d, or you can use the one of the equations. Okay, from equation 3. So what is the equation 3? So I3. So 4I3 would be minus 5 plus 4I2. So I3 would be 1 by 4 minus 5 into plus 4I2. So from here you can do the substitution, you can calculate. So 4I3 is equal to minus 5 plus 4I2. We know the value of I2. Just substitute that. We get the I3 value as minus 0.8702 amperes. So what is the meaning of that? Minus meaning, go back to the circuit. So we are thinking the current is flowing like this. Instead, current is flowing like this. Okay. So the direction, correct direction of the current is this way. And the magnitude of that current is whatever we got here. My magnitude of the current is 0.8702 amperes. And other 2 branch currents we have to find, right? There are total 5 branch currents. You have to make sure that in the exam when they are asked branch currents, you have to find all the branch currents. So this is the branch, this is the branch, this is the branch, this is one more branch, this is one more branch. Total 5 branches are there. You calculated I1, I2 and I3. Don't stop there. You have to find the branch currents for this and branch current for this. Branch current for this is I1 minus I2. Branch current for this is I2 minus I3. So already you have all the values calculated. You calculate I1 minus I2 is equal to 1.6073 amperes. I2 minus I3 is 1.2499 amperes. So that is how we found out the all the branch currents. Any questions? Because yesterday some of you were in confusion. Is it clear now? Okay. So this is the problem from the question paper. So I will show you the question paper. This is the question paper, December 2019. 2019. This is the question. Let me increase the size. I hope you can see the question now. It is find E1, E2, find E1, E2, and I when the power dissipated in the 5 ohm resistor is 125 watt. It is for the 7 marks. I want all of you to try to solve it. So for your for the simplicity, I have marked all the nodes, and current is already given here. The nodes A, B, C, D, E, and F, and this is the direction of tracing. This is the direction of tracing. This current I is already given by them. Okay, so sometimes they give the current. So this current I is given, and this branch current value is known, 2.5 amperes. So we will take the same direction whatever is given. So this and this will add, and it will flow into this branch. And what would be that current? I plus 2.5. So according to KCL, it is I plus 2.5 will flow here, and I plus 2.5 will come here, and 2.5 is going away from the this particular node. What is the amount of current that will flow? I plus 2.5 minus 2.5 will, that is I will flow back to this branch. And this is 3 ohm, this is 2 ohm. E1 is unknown, E2 is unknown, I is unknown. Okay, try to solve this problem. If you have any doubts about this, one more information that I have given is the power dissipated in 5 ohm resistor is 125 watt, 125 watt. Just think how you can solve this. I will give you 5 minutes, and after the 5 minutes, we will discuss. If you have any questions, anybody, those who are working on the problem, that is fine. If anybody is in doubt, let me know. I can answer your question regarding solving this particular problem. This is from question paper. I told you, like most of the time in the question paper, they will be having only two loops. Two loops means only three branch currents and two unknowns, I1, I2. Prathamesh, what is the timing of the class? Prathamesh? Prathamesh, unmute and speak up. Prathamesh Lad. Oh, any ideas here how to find the unknowns? Anybody? Any idea how to solve this? This is from the question paper. Now we have completed the everything. You should be able to solve such problems. Any idea like how you will approach? No ideas? Okay. So shall I go ahead and show you the solution, how it should be done, or you want to try? Okay. So I will give the hint here. The first thing what you have to do is here this problem is not at all different from what you have solved. If you think they have given the EMF source itself as unknown, don't worry about that. Okay, you apply the basics, whatever you have learned, you apply the basics. First thing is they have given the power dissipated in the 5 ohm resistor is 125 watt. Okay, in this resistor, the power dissipated is how much? 125 watt. So, does that give any clue to you? Power is known, the resistor is resistance is known. Can we calculate the current there? Okay, if you are not responding, I will just explain and I will go ahead. Is that you want? You are the ones who wanted me to go slow, right? All right. Okay, so we they have given one information 125 watt is that is what the power dissipated in this particular resistor. So using that information, we can say we know the power formula. Here we want the current. Current is the unknown, and R is given, T is given, and we can use the power equation, which is in terms of the I and R. That is P is equal to I square R. So this is little blur. This is P is equal to I square R. And what is the current that is flowing in this particular branch? In this branch, I plus 2.5 amperes is flowing. Therefore, 125 is equal to I plus 2.5 whole square into 5. I take the 5 on this side. This is 125 by 5 is equal to I plus 2.5 whole square. Then this division 125 by 5 is 25. Then is equal to I plus 2.5 whole square. This I will say 5 square. 5 square is equal to I plus 2.5 whole square. Therefore, 5 is equal to I plus 2.5. Therefore, I is equal to 5 minus 2.5. I is 2.5. Now, what happened? We found out this current. So, this current is also 2.5. This is 2.5. And this 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5 amperes. They will add up. So, now we found out the current. Now, you can apply the the KVL to the two nodes. Which are the two nodes we have? First one is this node A, B, C, F, A. Apply the KVL to this loop. What we get? You start from A, you come across the negative plate, that is minus E1, and this is the direction of current, and the direction of tracing is also same. So this voltage drop is plus 3I. So you can write that as minus E1 plus 3 into I. Then continue, you come to B, you come to the node C. Now you can see this is the direction of tracing and this is the direction of the current. They are opposite. So the voltage drop in this resistor should be taken as negative. So minus 2 into 2.5. That is minus 2 into 2.5. And you continue, you come across the positive plate of a EMF source. I will take this value as positive, that is plus E2, plus E2, and we come back to the original node, that is A is equal to 0. We simplify this, minus I1, 3 into I value is already known, 2.5, 3 into 2.5 minus, this is 2 into 2.5 is 5, minus 5 plus E2. Therefore, next minus E1 plus E2, this is 7.5 minus 5, that is 2.5 plus 2.5. Therefore, minus E1 plus E2 is equal to minus 2.5. That is the first equation. Now, similarly, we will apply the KVL to FCDEF. That is the next loop. FCDEF. So you start from this node, you come across a negative plate of the EMF source. So I will take this value, which is unknown, as minus E2. You can see here minus E2. Then I will continue. So what is the current that is flowing here? The current that is flowing is 2.5 amperes. And this is the direction of tracing. And this is the direction of the current. Both are in the same direction. So voltage drop is plus 2 into 2.5. You get it as plus 2 into 2.5. Then continue with the tracing. So you go to the node C, D, and you come to this. Now the direction of the tracing and the direction of the current both are in the same direction. So what would be the voltage drop? Plus 5 into I plus 2.5. So that is the current that flows in that particular branch. So you get 5 plus 5 into I plus 2.5. Now we know the value of the I. So you substitute the value of I, 2.5 minus E2. This is 2 into 2.5 is 5 plus 5 into 2.5 plus 2.5. So this is 5 into 5, 25. So we get it as minus E2 plus 5, and this is 25. Minus E2 plus 30 is equal to 0. If I take E2 on the other side, E2 is equal to 30 volts. So we got the answer for the EMF source E2. E2 is 30 volt. Now from equation 1, so what is the equation 1? We have this equation, minus E1 plus E2 is equal to minus 2.5. Now we know the value of the E2, so we can substitute that. Therefore minus E1, E2 value is 30, and 30 I take on the right hand side, minus E1 is equal to minus 2.5 minus 30 is equal to minus 32.5. Therefore E1 is equal to 32.5. So this is the one problem from the question paper. Any doubts here? What I will do, I will put this PDF in your classroom so that you can, if you are not noted down, you can open the PDF and note down the problem. Okay. So we'll continue with the second part of the your module 1. Okay, let me open the syllabus. This is the very easy part what we have completed. So we talked about the DC circuit, okay, Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's law. So we completed this DC circuits, Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's laws, analysis of series, parallel, and series parallel circuits excited by the independent voltage sources and concept of power and energy. Now we'll look into AC fundamentals. In AC fundamentals, we'll look into generation of the sinusoidal voltage, frequency of the generated voltage, definition and numerical values of average value, root mean square value, form factor and peak factor of sinusoidally varying voltage, and current phasor representation of the alternating quantity. So this here we looked into DC. This is completely AC. Now, as we know, the connection to our household is a alternating current. So alternating current, what is the alternating current? Alternating current is the current or the voltage which changes continuously, right? It changes continuously in the sense either it will change in the magnitude or it will change in the direction. So it will be continuously changing. And alternating current is written in short form as AC. AC consists of all the uh, 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 voltage sources or the sources due to which that alternating current flow through the various elements. Alternating or sinusoidal voltage current, a voltage which changes its direction and magnitude at a regular interval of time is called as a alternating voltage, or alternate definition is voltage which changes its polarity at regular interval of time is called as a alternating voltage. So first thing is any what is alternating quantity. When I say quantity, it can be current as well as the voltage. When a certain quantity changes its magnitude or direction continuously, then it is called as a alternating entity. What are the examples of the alternating quantity? Examples of the alternating quantity can be a square wave. Okay, in case of a square wave, we see the polarity will change at a regular interval of time, and the magnitude also changes from positive to negative. Or we can have a triangular wave. So triangular wave, its value magnitude continuously changes, and with a regular interval of time its polarity changes, means its direction changes. And so there are many forms of the alternating current. Out of that, we have chosen the a sinusoidal voltage form. So sinusoidal voltage form is the whenever we talk about the AC and even our household connection, what we have is a alternating quantity which is in the sinusoidal form. Okay, we don't tell it as a sinusoidal alternating quantity. Inherently it means the a sinusoidal form. So when you apply a alternating quantity to a circuit, okay, the alternating quantity, as you seen the sine wave, so it will have a smooth positive. It takes a peak and it starts reducing. It becomes zero, and then it will start going into the negative direction. It keeps on increasing in the negative direction, reaches a peak value. Again, it will smoothly reduce. Okay, and it will become zero, and this cycle will keep on repeating. If we apply a sinusoidal voltage, so we have applied a sinusoidal voltage to a resistor during the first half cycle. Okay, where this is the voltage, its magnitude increases from zero, slowly it will increases, gradually it will increase, it will reach a peak value, and then it will start reducing back to zero. Now, what happens is when we apply this voltage for the first half cycle, the current will flow in this direction. So this will act like a positive plate and this will act like a negative plate. So current will gradually increase. If I draw the current also, current when voltage is zero, current will be zero, and current will also gradually increase. When voltage is maximum, the current in this circuit is maximum. And when the voltage starts dipping, even the current will start dipping and it will become zero at this point. Now in the next half cycle, that is, this is the first half cycle, the current was flowing in this direction. In the next half cycle, now what happens in this negative cycle, this will act as a negative plate and this will act as a positive plate. So current will start flowing in, opposite direction to what it was flowing in the first half cycle. So current will start flowing from here, from 0 it will gradually increase and it reaches a peak value, and again gradually it comes back to 0. And after this negative cycle, again I have a positive cycle, so current will flow in this direction for the next half cycle. Then during the negative cycle, again the current will flow in this fashion. So if you see here, the alternating voltage that is applied to a circuit, alternating voltage is changing its magnitude as well as it is changing its direction. Every half cycle it is changing its direction. uh, Current will also follow the same pattern. Current will also increase for the according to the voltage applied, and it will flow in one direction. As soon as the voltage changes the direction, it will also changes the direction. So in case of a alternating voltages, the voltage and the current continuously change their magnitude and they change their direction. So this is the representation of the sinusoidal voltage or the current. So both sinusoidal voltage and the current both are represented using the sinusoidal waveform. So this is the sinusoidal waveform. It will start from 0, gradually it will increase. This peak value is constant for a given voltage, and once it reaches the peak value, again it will start reducing, and at half cycle, okay, that is at the angle of 180 degree, it will become 0 and it will change its direction and it will start going into the negative direction, so opposite direction, and it will take a peak at 3 pi by 2. This peak and this peak is exactly the same. If let us say, if it is a voltage, if it is 50 volt, this would be minus 50 volt. If it is a current, if it is maximum is 10 amperes, this is minus 10 amperes. At 2 pi or 360 degree, again it will become a 0. So each sinusoidal voltage or the current is represented. One of the important value that is to be noted is the Vm or the Im, that is the peak value. So why did we choose the sinusoidal waveform? I said like there when they were making a choice of a sinusoidal waveform, there was definitely a benefit of having a AC over the DC. Okay, that is not in scope here. When AC had advantages, when they were choosing the AC alternating quantities, they had different options, as I told you: square waveform, rectangular waveform, triangular waveform. In triangular waveform we can have multiple options. So out of that, the sinusoidal waveform was chosen because it inherently had many advantages over other waveforms. The first one is sine waveform produces least disturbance in the electrical circuit and smoothest and efficient waveform. So as you saw in the previous, the way the alternating quantity, the way the sinusoidal waveform is created, the transition from one value to the another value is very smooth. So unlike, like if I say for example, if you have a square waveform, in square waveform at zeroth time, okay, the current or the voltage will change from 0 to the peak value suddenly, and at pi, means at half cycle, it will change from the plus peak value to the minus peak value. So the change is very drastic. If you see the sinusoidal waveform, the changes are very smooth. So that is the one of the advantages that makes the circuits very efficient. When current in capacitor, inductor and transformer is sinusoidally uh, when sinusoidal voltage or current is used, the disturbance caused by that waveform is very less. So these are the sinusoidal waveforms are the most smoothest and the efficient waveforms. The use of the sinusoidal voltages applied to coils results in a revolving magnetic field which has a capacity to do work. So this one we will see in the three phase. When we apply a three phase alternating voltage to a three phase coil, it will create a a revolving magnetic field, and the revolving magnetic field has a capacity to do work. Means it has a potential, it has a capacity to do work that can be utilized as a way to generate voltage, okay, generate power. This we will see later when we talk about the three phase. We will also prove that whenever a three phase alternating voltage is applied to three phase coil, it will create a revolving magnetic field. And the most important aspect is the mathematical computations connected with the alternating currents are very, very easy. So because it is a sinusoidal function, the mathematical computations are very simple. AC current flows through a resistor, capacitor, inductor, or a transformer. In case of a DC circuit, if you remember, we have only one type of a load, that is a resistor. If we apply a DC voltage to the capacitor, the current will flow until the capacitor is charged, then the current will cease, current will not flow. And in case of an inductor, if you apply a DC, initially there will be a very less amount of current, and once the opposition dies off, then inductor will become a normal resistor. Okay. um, but in AC can be used for resistor, capacitor, inductor, and also it can be used for the transformer. Sinusoidal voltage produces sinusoidal current, which is not possible for other waveforms. This is the most important aspect of the sinusoidal waveform. Whenever we are applying a sinusoidal voltage, it will definitely produce a sinusoidal current. Okay, this is not true for other waveforms. Suppose if I let us say square waveform to the capacitor, so what will happen? The square waveform voltage, the current will not be a square waveform. Initially the current will slowly, gradually, it will start from zero, and it will reach a peak value when capacitor gets charged, then the current becomes zero. Right now you applied a square wave, and the resulting waveform is a kind of a ramp, right? But if I apply the sinusoidal voltage to the capacitor, the resulting current is also sinusoidal. If I apply the sinusoidal voltage to the resistor, the resulting current is a sinusoidal. If I apply a sinusoidal waveform to the inductor, the resulting current is also a sinusoidal. This is not true for other waveforms. That is the biggest advantage of the sinusoidal waveform. And also it helps in power transmission at higher voltage using the transformers. So using sinusoidal voltage sinusoidal waveform, using the transformer, we can increase the voltages to very high level, 660 kV, or even higher than that. By increasing the voltage, we reduce the transmission losses. Generation of alternating voltage or a current. So next question is, how do we generate the sinusoidal waveform, or henceforth we will call it as a alternating voltage. Alternating voltage means it is nothing but a, a sinusoidal waveform only. So how do we generate it? So for sinusoidal voltage generation, we use the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. So there are two laws given by the Faraday's, which are very relevant for the generation of alternating voltage or the current. The first law, Faraday's first law, and Faraday's second law. Does anybody remember what is the Faraday's first law? Anybody remembers? You have already seen the Faraday's first law. So these are also called as a Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So Faraday's first law, to answer, if you ask the question, how EMF is induced in a conductor or a coil, the answer to this is nothing but a Faraday's first law. Means the Faraday's first law tells us how EMF is induced. So Faraday's law states like, whenever a flux linked with a coil or a conductor changes, an EMF is induced in that particular conductor or a coil. So what is Faraday's first law? A flux linked with a coil or a conductor changes and EMF is induced. For example, you have a magnet and you have a coil. Okay, so coil is it's a conductor wound as a coil. So whenever the flux linked with that particular coil changes, means what? You are let us say you are moving the magnet towards the coil. What happens is the flux linked with that particular coil is changing, so that change will produce an EMF in that particular coil. So whenever there is a flux linked with a coil or a conductor changes, then EMF will get induced in that particular coil. That is the first law. And what is the second law? First law says that how much EMF is induced, and the second law says first law says how EMF is induced, second law says how much EMF is induced. Okay, Faraday's second law, the magnitude of the EMF induced is directly proportional to rate of change of the flux linkage. Means how much amount of EMF is induced, it depends on the rate of change of the flux. How quickly the flux linked with that coil or a conductor is changing, that will decide the magnitude of the EMF induced. Okay, so this is just for the basics. Just refer back to any book, physics book. You will come to know about the Faraday's first law and second law. Just refresh those two laws, and we'll continue in the next class.